And what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. We've got a little bit of everything this week. We've got IndyCar stuff from Barber. We've got NASCAR at Martinsville. We had some World of Outlaws stuff happen. We had the High Limit Series. A little bit of everything. So thanks for tuning in. Stick with us, and let's start out with some race recaps. All right, let's get straight into IndyCar from Barber Motorsports Park, because this was once again a controlled effort by the team at Chip Ganassi Racing with Alex Palou once again running up front. So last year we're talking 16-second lead on the field. This year Palou another lead by 13.2 seconds. The only one that could really make up any ground was Christian Lundgaard, who we saw try to battle it up and honestly had the pace aside from an issue in the pits. But this is still an insane jump by Alex Palou in the season so far. I mean, he's not totally dominating like he did last year, but he's definitely coming in strong. But one thing I definitely want to talk about, because we're going to talk about Alex Palou winning again and again this season, but Graham Rahal and the effort over there at RLL was pretty awesome to see. And we're talking Fast 6 qualifiers, top 3, got his first podium in over 2 years. Just awesome to see from that veteran over there at RLL, and a team that's gone through so much struggle when they really should be a front-running team and a top 5 team most of the time, right? So super great to see that from them. Really excited to see a little speed and momentum, especially as we get closer to May. That's a team that always struggles at Indy, we know that. So it'll be good to see things happen. But yeah, Palou once again schooled the field. Barber Motorsports Park, definitely something we knew was going to happen. Really not a whole lot to talk about other than that. There was not anything real crazy. You did have some failures on some cars in qualifying. We obviously saw the huge hit Scott McLaughlin took, kind of going in between the catch fence and over the barrier. Honestly, thankfully he did, because had the attenuator had to absorb that whole impact at what was 150 miles an hour or something going backwards into the fence, that would have been a pretty ugly scene, and who knows what would have happened. But thankfully, the stars aligned and he walked out and still had a pretty strong effort on the day considering. But no one was going to touch Alex Palou, and that's really as simple as it gets. All right, let's get into some Martinsville stuff, because this weekend delivered exactly what you expect from Martinsville. You had some tight racing, some heavy contact. Track position decided literally everything for these guys. So let's start out with the O'Reilly Auto Parts race. This one was pretty straightforward. We saw Justin Allgaier end the day where he started, and that was out front, hoisting the trophy once again. Another victory for JRM Motorsports as well, which I might add. It's pretty insane. But yeah, it's been a hard-earned season for them, but they've obviously got it figured out. You also had Lee Polium driving the number 9 JRM entry, sponsored by Jerky Boys Beef Jerky. There's a free one for you, Dale. But honestly, that guy at Martinsville is pretty insane. He's got it figured out. He's running similar cars. I mean, I don't want to say late models are the same as O'Reilly cars, because they're not. But you've got a guy who's won a couple times in the late model series at Martinsville. Super veteran driver. He comes in. He leads some laps at certain points. He's in second on the restart. Has a slip up. Cost the big wreck of the field, unfortunately. Missing a shift and a couple other little things. But, mistakes happen. They obviously don't want the mistakes to happen, but they do happen. And it's a learning thing for him. And honestly, he carried it the best way possible. Polium in the post-race interviews was very apologetic. Apologized to the entire series, basically. Everybody that was involved. He started his speech with that and then got super emotional about what an experience it's been working with Dale Jr. and the dream come true of being in the O'Reilly series. And, these guys worked their entire lives to get to this point, and it's just pretty awesome. But, yeah, he definitely made some things happen. Another thing I want to touch on, too, is Corey Day finishing second in that number 17 Chevy, which is a JRM car with Hendrick power. I mean, it's a good car, we know that, but that's his career best. I mean, 20-year-old kid out of the Dirt Series getting a lot of slack for how long it's taken him to adjust, which hasn't even been that long. He had a few races last year and then this season, but obviously driving a little aggressive, driving a little dirty at times. taking all the brunt of all the heat on social media and everything else, but he really did a great job with that car and the track at Martinsville. And I think there's something with the dirt track racers at Martinsville too. They seem to adjust pretty well to it, but just good overall to see something good come out of that one. So let's jump over to the Cup Series. It's a pretty quick recap on this one because it looked like Denny Hamlin was going to just dominate the entire day. I mean, it led the most laps, started on the pole, got all the stage points. I mean, Denny had it, right? Well, then you had a couple issues going into the restart. Pit selection is key. Denny had great pit stop, but that number 9 team, Chase Elliott, was on top of it. Ends up starting off the last pit cycle, leading from there. Denny's chasing him down the best he can. And honestly, Denny had the car to beat. Everybody knows it. But Chase Elliott gets it done, gets the win. Come to find out post-race that the left rear wheel was a bit off and loose on Denny's car. So those center lug wheels can be loose but still stay on because they have those retaining pins on those lugs. So it sounded like that's what it was, and it was loose. But that would cause a lot of it. I mean, he was within, half a second several different times. Could have made some moves, but if you've got a loose wheel in the rear, I mean, there's not much you can do about it. So unfortunate for them that they didn't get that win, but good to see Chase Elliott in it again. And this really drives it home to late race execution and, all the other good stuff that comes along with it. Patience, control, timed aggression's great. Just overall, I mean, we expected Denny to take that thing, and it looked like he was going to get it, but another mistake in the pits, and this is what happens. But good to see Hendrick kind of clear their drought. I mean, I want to say drought. They won this, the championship last year, but just so far this year, they haven't really had much, and the Chevrolets haven't had much, but they got it done, so congrats to them on that. Now I just want to take a minute to talk about something that's kind of quietly becoming one of the biggest stories of the 2026 season. We reference it in small doses here and there, but NASCAR going back to a full season points format, or the chase format, if you will. No playoffs, just straight championship fight. I mean, it's kind of changing everything for us, right? I mean, you do have, I don't want to say the playoffs. We've talked about this on a couple different episodes. There's probably beating a dead horse here, but you have the chase format with 16 drivers, but consistency is starting to matter again. You can't have 3 bad weeks and reset your season. You can't rely on one win to carry you through. Every single race counts, every position in every race, every stage point. And that's what we're seeing really early this season. The drivers at the top aren't just winning, they're always there. Top 5s, top 10s, week after week, because now when you've got the momentum, you've got to build it towards a championship. You've got to erase the mindset that was win a race and your season is basically saved until the playoffs. That mentality's gone. You win and it helps for sure, but it doesn't define your whole season. And that's creating a completely different style of racing for these guys. Drivers are thinking bigger picture. Teams are calling races a little differently. You're seeing fewer all or nothing moves. Wrecking out actually hurts you now. This is one that's more interesting for changes. Strategy has become more conservative and smarter, more calculated moves, if you will. Instead of gambling for a win at all costs, teams are asking themselves, what's the best points day we can get? Can we sacrifice something in stage 2 and not take the win, but still get some points? Taking a 4th place instead of risking everything for the win. Playing this pit strategy a little safer, managing races instead of forcing races. I mean, and over a full season, that's going to add up for these guys. And that's where things get a little more subjective, but the championship feels much different. It feels much more earned this year, because instead of a 3-race shootout deciding everything, you're watching a story build over months. Momentum swings definitely matter now. Bad races matter. Recovery drives matter. You're not just crowning who got hot at the right time. You're crowning the best driver over the entire season. Now, there is a huge trade-off, and this is where I'm going to probably get a little slack on this from, the haters of the playoff format, which I'm kind of a hater of the playoff format myself. So the playoff format, though, it did create chaos. It made great television. It created urgency. It created big dramatic elimination moments. Take Martinsville, for example, right? Martinsville could have been so much different if it was a win-in-your-in deal and say Denny hadn't already won this season, He could have put a bumper to somebody. Something could have happened. There would have been questionable playing in that gray area of right or wrong. We don't really have that right now. Instead, we have what's a slow burn, and for some fans, this might be less intense week to week. The racing could get a little boring with the storylines, but the real story isn't just who's fast, it's adapts who's best to this format. You got to avoid the bad races, you've got to maximize the good ones, and you've got to stay consistent over the long haul of the season because that's what this system rewards. And honestly, that might be the biggest shift of all. NASCAR didn't just change that format, they changed what it takes to be the champion. So that being said, just something to keep watching. I know we've talked about it a few times on this show, and we're probably going to talk about it a bunch more, but the momentum swings are wild. For instance, this is just my last example, and then I'll get rid of it, but you had Bubba in the top 3 in points up until this last race where he had that moment with Carson Macedo, plows into it, called it a quote-unquote misjudgment. He plowed into him. It is what it is. He can say whatever he wants on TV, but we all saw it. Nobody plows into somebody twice in a row in the same corner like that. And this is similar to a temper loss that he had against Larson a couple years ago, right? I think that was in Vegas. But regardless, he goes from, top point seed to down to 7th or 8th now. I mean, you lose 5 to 6 positions over one race so far. And granted, the water's going to get a little murkier as you get more races to judge things off of. Just for example, the points definitely matter. And yeah, we'll leave that alone for the rest of this episode, but we're definitely going to talk about it again. All right, so let's jump over to the High Limit Series real quick and just talk about, they had some weather issues and stuff that postponed some races for them, but let's just go straight down to the Route 66 race in Amarillo. And the big story here is Tanner Thorson continues to make championship statements. He beats out Aaron Rutzel in Texas, scoring his second win of the season and his first ever at that track, which is kind of awesome to hear. The Nevada native led every single lap, and he did have a couple close calls working through traffic and having a couple spots where Rutzel was within, 0.1 seconds of getting around him, but he held on strong, kept it going, and really just executed flawlessly. And he's had a good run coming up to this. I mean, he's had nothing but top 10s. I think every race he's at least been in the top 10. He's got a couple of runner-up spots that he's come in second. I mean, he's definitely going to take over this championship early. So looking at the points right now, he's got about a 20-point lead over Aaron Rutzel. Rico's in third, 60 points behind that. Giovanni Celsi is in fourth, and Tyler Courtney's coming in fifth. By the way, seeing Tyler Courtney back in it after the rough year he had last year and being top 5 in points already is pretty awesome to see. I mean, you still got a bunch of hangers in the back. You got Justin Peck, Kerry Madsen, Jason Pursley, Brett Marks, Tanner Holmes. I mean, all these guys in the top 10 in points. It's still too early to see what's going to happen, obviously, but he's definitely got the lead there with Thorson taking over and having these spectacular finishes, to be honest. It's great to see that. So, though we got some races coming up this week, we don't have a whole lot of racing coming up this week, but they definitely do, so we'll definitely cover that and see where those points land after next weekend. Let's jump over to the classics of the World of Outlaws. Again, more sprint car stuff. First one let's kick off is Osborne, Missouri. The oval there, US 36, I believe they call it. Has some seriously good racing, and at the end of the day on this one, Carson Macedo just couldn't be beat. At the end of the day, he takes the win. I believe it's $12,000 purse on that one. You had Buddy Kofoid coming up in second, David Gravel in third, Sheldon Hodenschild in fourth, and Emerson Axsom, which is awesome to see, in fifth. So most everybody finished in the top 5 that started in the top 5. You did have Emerson gain a couple spots there. Really everybody kind of stayed true to where they started on that one with their qualifying and everything from the heats. But yeah, the feature win on that one goes to Carson Macedo and that team over there. Is great to see. So that takes us to the 81 Speedway, the tall grass tussle, as they call it. Buddy Kofoid reminded everyone that he's still there to play. Friday night, second place finish. Saturday night comes in for the win. This one over there in Kansas at Park City Speedway, 81 Speedway, I believe it's called. Kofoid didn't just dominate this one. He definitely had to work for it. You had Ryan Timms leading it halfway through, and then Buddy Kofoid coming in towards the end to really get things done. Let's see here for feature results on this one. So we talked about Buddy Kofoid in the win there, Ryan Timms in second, Cole Macedo in third, Carson Macedo in fourth. Carson Macedo started in the back of the pack too, so I mean, we know he won the night before, but to get top 5 after starting in 22nd position is pretty insane. Donnie Schatz lost a couple spots, but still comes home with the top 5, and David Gravel outside the top 5 in 6th place is kind of crazy to see, but it does happen. Obviously, Carson Macedo getting a hard charger award there. Another $12,000 purse for these guys on that one. These little dash races are pretty awesome. It's good to see a lot of this stuff going down, but yeah, pretty good start to the season for these guys. I mean, if we're going to dive into some points real quick just to discuss it, you're still looking at David Gravel with your points lead. He started off, 3 wins right out of the gate in the season. Carson Macedo, though, he's closing the gap. He's only 48 points behind in second place there. And then Sheldon Hoddenchild just hanging out these top 5s, doing pretty well. He's in third currently in points, 74 points back from Gravel. But, I mean, you still have Buddy Kofoid in fourth, Donnie Schatz in fifth, a couple other guys really coming up with some momentum from the back. Just pretty cool to see that these guys are spreading it out this year. It's not just a total domination. You're getting to actually see some good fights for the championship battle over there at the World of Outlaws, and can't wait to see what happens this next week. History time. Let's take a step back this week, because when we talk about Formula One in the late 1980s and early 1990s, we usually go straight to the giants, right? You had Senna, you had Prost, you had Mansell, but just behind them, consistently quick, incredibly precise, and almost always overlooked, was Thierry Boutsen. Thierry wasn't just flashy, he wasn't controversial, and he definitely wasn't loud, but what he was one of the most technically sharp and dependable drivers of his era. Before Formula One, Boutsen actually built a reputation in junior categories, going head-to-head with some very familiar names, including Ayrton Senna. And while Senna grabbed the headlines, Boutsen built something else, a reputation for control. He made his Formula One debut in 1983, and like a lot of drivers of that era, his early years were spent grinding it out in midfield machinery, teams like Arrows and Benetton, where results were hard-earned, they weren't expected, but this is where Boutsen's style really started to stand out. He was very smooth, very calculated, and crucially easy on the car. At a time when reliability was never guaranteed, that mattered more than ever. But the real turning point came in 1989 when Boutsen joined Williams. Now, this wasn't quite the dominant Williams team we'd seen in the mid-90s, but it was competitive nonetheless, and Boutsen made the most of it. His first win came at the 1989 Canadian Grand Prix, a race that, in classic Boutsen fashion, was less about chaos and more about precision. He didn't just steal the win, he controlled the race when it mattered. But his most famous victory came 1 year later at the 1990 Hungarian Grand Prix, and this one is worth remembering because Boutsen spent nearly the entire race holding off Ayrton Senna, lap after lap, under relentless pressure from one of the most aggressive drivers the sport has ever seen, and he didn't crack, he didn't make a mistake, he didn't overdrive the car, he just had absolute control over the whole thing, the car, the situation. It was defensive driving at its absolute peak, and it earned him one of the most hard-fought wins of that era. Across his career, Boutsen would take 3 victories and multiple podiums, which on paper might not jump out at you, but context definitely matters. He was competing in one of the most stacked eras in Formula One history, against multiple world champions, often without the outright best car, and maybe that's why Thierry Boutsen is so often forgotten, because he didn't dominate. He didn't create controversy. He just delivered quietly, consistently, effectively. But in a sport where mistakes are punished instantly and pressure never lets up, drivers like Boutsen are a reminder that sometimes precision does beat the spectacle. Thierry Boutsen may not be the first name you think of from that era, but he is absolutely one of the drivers who defined it. Post-race, Boutsen has had quite the success. Since retiring from racing, he's moved into the aviation industry, selling business jets from a firm that he started in Monaco. I mean, if he owns a business in Monaco, we know he's doing all right. He's also the co-owner and advisor for Boutsen Racing, who have competed in touring car racing since 1998. Boutsen Aviation from Monaco, sale and acquisition of business jets. He founded that company in 1997 with his wife, and the company has sold over 200 aircrafts ranging from Airbus, corporate jets to Cessna Citations, and he really fell in love with the aviation industry post-racing, which I see a lot of guys do, honestly, and we've talked about before a lot of drivers that are pilots and stuff like that. But just to touch back on all the great races he was a part of, he was part of the 24 Hours of Spa in 1977 and 1978, World Challenge for Endurance Drivers in 1979, ran Formula 3 in 1980, ran Formula 2 in Europe and Japan in 1981, along with running the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Once again, Formula 2 in Europe and Japan in 1982, along with World Sports Car Championship. He jumped into Formula 1 in 1983 with a part-time effort and World Sports Car Championship from there. And then he jumped between those from 83 up to 87, and then went full tilt in Formula 1 from 88 to 92, actually to 93, and then 24 Hours of Le Mans again in 93. And then he went through all the sports car stuff from 94 to 99, pretty much hitting every 24-hour Le Mans and the BPR Global Series, the FIA GT Championship in 97. I mean, he's definitely covered the bases as far as a lot of racing and a lot of teams, and just a guy that kind of fit in anywhere, right? I mean, he definitely hit a lot of those 24 Hours of Le Mans races. He had a few second place finishes. He got first place in his class in 1996 as part of that team, but himself actually winning, he had a lot of DNFs and things like that. So let's look at his Spa results real quick while we're in here. Second place in 1988, overall class first place finish with that one, and that was kind of cool because that was a Ford Cosworth entry, which is something you don't ever hear about anymore, but they had a good run. GT Championship result, best he ever had was 15th, I believe. Just, you know, a guy that made stuff happen with low-budget teams, low-budget cars. I mean, really, there's not much more to say about it. He's just one of the guys that got it done when he needed to, had a decent sports car career, had a decent Formula 1 career. I mean, a lot of guys race their whole careers in Formula 1 with no wins, and he had multiple podiums, 3-time race winner. You know, I don't want to call him a midfield driver because that's not what he was. You know, he was precise, and he won those, again, like we mentioned before, in a stacked field. Some of the biggest names in Formula 1 still to this day raced alongside him. So for him to get a couple wins in is just extraordinary. But with that, we'll wrap it up on this one. Really no news to talk about this week, and it's going to be Easter week, so it's a little shorter episode. We've got less racing this weekend to talk about. We'll still talk about some dirt stuff, and of course you've got the Rockingham stuff over there for the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Series. I believe this is Cletus McFarland's debut at Rockingham in that RCR entry for O'Reilly Series, so we'll see how that goes. That's going to be a huge talking point for literally everyone next week, whether he does good or bad. It's going to be a talking point. Hopefully he does well. Hopefully we don't see more Daytona incidents, but good luck on that. Yeah, that's about it. We'll wrap it up here. Appreciate the listens. As always, please like, share, subscribe. Click all the buttons, do all the things. Follow us on all the socials. We post random stuff. We repost a lot. I mean, you know, we're just racing fans at the end of the day. So if you guys want to talk about anything specific, have any opinions, anything like that, please hit us up. You know how to do it. Hit us up on the socials, comment the post, whatever you got. Spam us with all that stuff, and we'll cover it on the show. Aside from that, hope everyone has a great, safe Easter weekend. Stay safe. Thanks for tuning in.